It was still dark outside when the pounding started on my front door. I looked at the clock. 5:04 in the morning. Nobody knocks at that hour unless something is wrong. I pulled a sweatshirt over my shoulders and walked to the door, my heart already racing before I even knew why. When I opened it, my next-door neighbour, Marcus Hale, was standing there. His face was pale, his breathing uneven, like he'd run the whole distance between our houses. "Don't go to work today," he said, voice low and urgent. "Stay home, please. Just trust me." I stared at him, confused. Marcus was quiet, the kind of neighbour you wave to in passing and otherwise never think about. He'd moved in about 14 months earlier, kept to himself, and in all that time we'd barely exchanged a dozen full sentences. Seeing him like this, unravelled, urgent, felt deeply wrong. "What are you talking about? Did something happen?" He shook his head slowly, eyes sharp, almost pleading. "I can't explain right now. Just promise me you won't go in today." Everything about that moment felt unreal. The cold air, the first pink edge of sunrise, and this man, normally so unreadable, looking like he was barely holding himself together. "Marcus, you're scaring me. Why shouldn't I go in?" He hesitated, then, almost a whisper, "You'll understand by this afternoon." Before I could ask anything else, he stepped back, glanced once down the empty street, and walked quickly back to his house without looking back. I stood there with my hand still on the doorknob, mind spinning. Part of me wanted to write it off as a strange overreaction, but another part, the part that had kept me steady through a lot, told me not to brush this off. And there was one more reason I couldn't shake it. 4 months earlier, I'd lost my father. His death was sudden, officially ruled a heart attack. But in the weeks before, he'd kept trying to tell me something about the firm he needed me to understand before it was too late. We never had that conversation. He died on a Tuesday morning at his desk, and the explanation died with him. Since then, strange things had been happening. A car with tinted windows parked near my driveway more than once, my phone ringing from blocked numbers with no one on the line, my sister calling out of nowhere to ask if I'd noticed anyone unfamiliar around. Nothing random about any of it. My name is Wren Calloway. I'm 32, a senior compliance analyst at Ashcroft and Vance Capital, and someone who never misses work unless I'm genuinely sick. I live alone, in the house my father left me. Quiet, predictable. Until that morning, I made my decision standing in that doorway, not out of fear, but logic. If Marcus was wrong, I'd lose a day. If he was right, I might be avoiding something I couldn't yet name. I texted my manager about a family emergency and waited. The hours crawled. By 11, I felt foolish. Nothing had happened. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. A calm, measured voice said, "Ms. Calloway, this is Detective Renata Ortiz, Financial Crimes Division. Are you aware of an incident at your office this morning?" My stomach dropped. "What incident?" "A security breach and a violent altercation around 9 a.m. Several employees were injured. We believe you were on site." "That's impossible. I've been home all morning." "We have footage of your vehicle entering the parking structure at 8:51. Your badge was used to enter the building. You were seen on the 4th floor, your floor, shortly before it happened." My knees actually went weak. Someone had used my identity. Someone had wanted it to look like I was there. "Is there anyone who can confirm your whereabouts?" the detective asked. I looked around my empty living room. "No, I live alone." Her tone grew formal. "We'll need you to come in for questioning. Items were recovered near the scene. Items connected to your work account." My mind clicked into place, sudden and sickening. Marcus. His pale face. Don't go to work today. Someone had been planning this, and I was meant to be part of it, either as a casualty or as the one left holding the blame. "Did you see who actually got out of the car in that footage?" I asked. A pause. "The footage is incomplete. No clear face, just the vehicle and your plates. Whoever had done this had access to my car, or something built to pass for it. My identity hadn't just been stolen for a morning. It had been replaced. "Officers will be at your address shortly. Please don't leave the premises." My instincts went into overdrive. If Marcus had warned me away, and someone had impersonated me there, police showing up might not mean protection. It might mean they'd come to take me in. I locked every door and pulled the blinds. My mind raced backward, a sedan I'd noticed twice down the block and dismissed. Emails asking casually whether I'd be in the office Tuesday. The unsettling sense someone had been through my desk. None of it had felt like paranoia at the time. Now it felt like preparation. A sharp, controlled knock. Then a voice. "Ren, it's Marcus. Open the door." "How did you know the police would call me?" I asked through the wood. "Because they're not coming to protect you. They're coming to detain you. You were never supposed to wake up safely this morning." "What are you talking about?" "They staged this. Someone inside your firm has been laundering money through client accounts for years, and your father found it. He spent 2 years building a case from the inside. This morning's incident wasn't random. It was designed to make you look like the person responsible. So it's whatever he documented gets buried with your career. Or worse." I opened the door slowly. Not because I trusted him fully, but because I trusted fear less. His eyes scanned the street behind me before he even said a word. He stepped inside and closed the door firmly. "They're already on their way. You have minutes." "Why me? What is actually going on?" He checked the window again, voice dropping. "Ren, I didn't move in next door by accident. Your father asked me to." The words landed like a blow. "My father? He managed risk compliance. He was an actuary." Marcus turned to face me fully. For the last 2 years, he was working with federal investigators, documenting a money laundering operation running through your firm. Shell accounts, structured deposits under reporting thresholds, wire transfers routed through 3 countries before disappearing. He wasn't just an employee who noticed something wrong. He was building a case. My mouth went dry. "What does that have to do with me?" Marcus pulled out a small sealed envelope. "He knew something like this might happen. He left this for you." My fingers shook as I opened it. My father's handwriting. The same hand from every birthday card, every note on the kitchen counter. "Ren, if you're reading this, what I was afraid of has happened. This isn't about anything you did. It's about what I found and the fact that you work in the same building. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from that more carefully. Marcus will explain the rest. Trust him the way you'd have trusted me. Don't go in voluntarily. If they get you alone, they'll have time to build whatever story they need. Get to the records first." Dad, my knees nearly gave out. He'd known. He'd been trying to prepare me in pieces I'd been too busy to slow down for. Marcus met my eyes. "They're not just framing you for this morning. They're making sure nobody ever takes your father's findings seriously. A discredited daughter charged with something violent is a very convenient way to bury a financial crimes investigation. So all of this, the badge, the car, the footage, was built to destroy my credibility before anyone looks at what he found." "Exactly. Once you're charged, anything connected to you, his files, his complaints to the SEC, gets dismissed as the work of an unstable family, or buried as evidence in a sealed case file nobody outside the prosecution ever sees." He pulled out a small keycard with a red stripe. "This opens a storage unit your father rented under a different name. 2 years of documentation, bank records, internal emails, names of who was moving the money and who was approving it. If we don't get there before they get to you, none of it ever sees daylight." In the distance, sirens began, faint, then closer. "They're here," Marcus said. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Whatever had replaced the fear felt steadier, something closer to certainty. I folded my father's letter, slid the keycard into my pocket, and said, "Show me where we need to go." We barely made it to Marcus's car before 2 black SUVs turned onto my street, rolling toward the house slow and deliberate, the walk of men retrieving something, not responding to an emergency. "Get in," Marcus said, and we pulled away fast enough that the tyres chirped. For 20 minutes, neither of us spoke. Finally, Marcus handed me a tablet. "There's something you need to see before we get there." A file labelled Callaway. Internal review, confidential. I scrolled, pulse climbing. Compliance flags my father had filed, repeatedly, over 18 months. Transactions tied to a holding company called Brennan Maritime Partners. Each flag closed within 48 hours by the same senior officer, Director Holt, my supervisor's supervisor, a man I'd sat across from in quarterly meetings for 3 years. He kept closing the flags, I said. My father kept raising them, and Holt kept closing them. 11 times, Marcus said. Each time your father documented it independently first, so when he finally brought it to federal investigators, it couldn't just be erased from the internal record. I kept scrolling. Wire logs, account numbers. A spreadsheet in my father's careful formatting tracking exactly when each flag was filed and exactly when it vanished from the official log. He built this case from inside, document by document, for 2 years, and nobody ever knew. Holt knew somebody was watching, Marcus said grimly. We believe that's why your father's death wasn't natural. The cause of death was listed as a heart attack, but there were irregularities the medical examiner never fully explained. And 2 weeks after he died, every flag he'd filed was wiped from the active database. I closed my eyes. For the first time, I didn't see my father as a quiet man who kept things from me. I saw someone who'd spent 2 years risking everything to make sure the truth outlived him. Why target me, though? Why not just erase the files and leave me alone? Because you work in compliance too. Eventually you'd have found the same pattern, even without trying. They couldn't risk waiting. So instead, they decided to get ahead of it. Frame you for something chaotic enough that nobody would take anything connected to you seriously again, including your father's name. We pulled up outside a quiet storage facility. Once we go in there, Marcus said, turning to face me, there's no pretending none of this happened. And once you know everything, the same people who came for him will eventually come for you too, unless we get ahead of them first. I've spent 4 months feeling like something was circling me without knowing what it was, I said. I'd rather know exactly what I'm facing. Inside, row after row of sealed boxes, each labelled in my father's neat handwriting. 2 years of his life, quietly waiting in a 10 by 10 unit nobody had thought to look for. On a folding table sat a laptop and a leather folder, with a longer letter inside. Ren. If you've made it this far, you understand more than I ever wanted you to. I found something wrong and I couldn't look away, the same way I raised you not to look away either. Everything is organised by date and account. There's a contact at the SEC's Enforcement Division, Patricia Lindqvist. Her line is on the inside cover. I trust her. Give her everything. Don't go through the firm's internal channels. That's exactly how this got buried the first time. I'm sorry I couldn't finish this myself. I'm not sorry I tried. Dad, my hands were shaking. Marcus let me sit with it for a moment before speaking. There's a decision here. We hand over a portion to clear your name on this morning's charge and let you go back to something like your old life. Or we call Lindqvist directly, hand over everything, and accept your name becomes part of a federal case for years, with a target on you the whole time. I looked at the boxes, at his handwriting, at 2 years of quiet, dangerous work that ended with him alone at his desk on a Tuesday morning. He didn't spend 2 years building this for it to sit in a storage unit, I said. Call her. What followed over the next weeks wasn't dramatic the way I'd imagined it might be. No shootout, no final confrontation, just a slow, careful unwinding. Federal investigators moved in with warrants. The incident at my office, under real forensic review, turned out to have been staged using a cloned badge from a security contractor with access to my file 3 weeks earlier. Director Holt was placed on leave within the week, and 2 months later indicted alongside 2 senior partners on charges connected to money laundering and obstruction. I was never charged. The footage that had seemed so damning fell apart completely once investigators noticed the timestamp inconsistencies Marcus had flagged from the start. Marcus, it turned out, wasn't just a quiet neighbour. He was a private investigator my father had hired 18 months earlier after first suspecting someone might eventually come looking for either the files or for me. He'd moved in next door simply to watch, quietly, for exactly the kind of morning that finally arrived. I think about my father almost every day now. Not as the quiet, careful man who never told me everything, but as someone who spent the last 2 years of his life building something he never got to finish, trusting I would be the one to finish it for him. People ask if I'm angry he never told me directly, that I had to learn the truth through a frightened knock at 5 a.m. I'm not. Some people protect the ones they love by carrying the danger alone for as long as they possibly can. My father carried it for 2 years, silently, so I wouldn't have to, until the one morning he could no longer keep it from reaching me anyway. And when it did, I didn't run from it. I finished what he started. If you've ever had someone in your life who protected you quietly, without ever explaining why, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if this story kept you here until the end, make sure you're subscribed, because next week I'm telling you another one.